Yo, what's going on, Flyer fans? Welcome to another episode of Flyers High and Wide. I'm your host, Angry Jim. I'm here with my co-host, Jack. You can hit him up on Twitter at FlyersJack. You can find me at Jim_FHW. You can find us on the following platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and the one that we use, which is Anchor. You can leave us a message on Anchor. Just search FHW Radio. Jack, let's dive right into it, man. Flyers finally get a win. First one this year.
Yeah, first one this year. We're almost 2 weeks in.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm glad I can't watch them and not want them to win. Like, I just feel like I'll be furious with them. And once they drop the puck and it's nothing, I'm just a fan. You know, I'm a fan again. I don't care about the standings, and it's just, I like watching them play. So I kept waiting for shit to go bad. It did not. Heart of Heart looked great. He had 37 saves on 38 shots. I knew they weren't going to give him the shutout. Just had that feeling. It's like, I don't think they're going to. For a second, I thought they might blow it completely, but they hung in there. They didn't fall apart like they usually do. That being said, Dallas is a good team in playoff positions. They have had struggles of late, especially what we heard about the CEO, ripping the top two players. But backup goalie in, and both goals weren't exactly – you could say there was a lot of luck involved. They were both deflections, especially JVR's. It deflects from a weird angle, weird shot, deflects, and it hits the defenseman's skate and trickles in. So it's not like they beat them with skill tonight. They just matched their intensity. They matched their hard work and got lucky with some deflections and had great goaltending and eked out a 2-1 win against a superior team with the backup goalie in net. So, I don't think this means that they're going to turn around and go on a streak or anything. I think they're not going to lose every single game from now to April. So, yeah, it was nice. I really liked what I saw from Carter Hart mainly. That's about it, honestly.
Hey, you know what? Do you remember a couple months ago, really our whole Flyer lives, we've been saying, man, if they just had a goalie that could steal them a game or make that save, or tonight was an example of that night. It's really easy for me to be negative and me to be angry and pick this team apart, but for as many games as they've been losing in a row, they finally get a win, whether they did it the right way or the wrong way. They didn't look like they were outplayed, at least to me while I was watching. I know the shots would say otherwise, but I'm happy with what I saw from Carter Hart. I didn't see maybe I missed them if there were, but I didn't see mistakes that led directly to goals like we've been accustomed to seeing lately. They looked in control. I think for the most part, and tell me if I'm wrong because I was on my laptop on Twitter at some points, but it looked like they kept the play in front of them for the most part. They weren't chasing pucks. Is that accurate?
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of that. I think Dallas gave them a lot of room to work within their own zone at least. Or like I would see them one guy would chase and the other defenseman would like drop it back around the net. And I remember Provorov getting it and being able to do like a full 360 and settle himself and then move forward before anybody started towards him. So I think that helped them. If I was the coach of the other team, I would be like, if you just stay on this team, if you just full court press, I think that's when they're going to make mistakes. And I don't think Dallas attacked like that. And this is a couple instances I noticed. I wouldn't say every instance, but definitely in our own zone, they really kind of let us operate comfortably. And the team's too talented to, when they're pressured, they forget what talent is and how to play. But when they're not, they kind of know what to do. Again, on the offense, yeah, they got 2 goals, but I wasn't impressed with either one of them. I'm glad they scored. The real star of the game was hands down, far and away, Carter Hart, and there's no questions about it. They got the win, and I don't foresee this turning into anything. I think who they play? They play Calgary on Saturday or something. They're probably gonna get smoked.
They got the Devils next.
They got the Devils.
So it could be a winning streak. Devils got smoked.
Who they got?
Let me see. If they beat the Devils, that would be 2 in a row. That would tie their second longest winning streak of the season at 2.
Devils are winnable for sure. They're not doing so hot.
And then they got Fletch's old team. They got Minnesota on Monday.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
They're without Dumba, and they've started to trend downwards, but they're still better than the Flyers. And is it away?
The Minnesota game is home, and you can buy a ticket for as low as $8.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I would go to the game, but Jake Voracek's language has, really bothered me. I don't know if I want to go now.
Yeah, God forbid. You want to talk about what happened tonight a little bit?
Please tell me what happened, Jimmy.
So there was a report, and I forget who tweeted it, but apparently, everybody knows when your team's on the power play, fans yell shoot. They want to see the players shoot. They want to see them score, really. Okay, so in essence, fans telling you to shoot is really the fans cheering you on because they want you to score. Now, some players are a little bit softer than others, and they have a problem blocking this kind of stuff out and I guess really focusing on what they're doing. And Jake Voracek's one of those players. And tonight, I guess maybe it got to him. And as he's skating off the ice, he looks into the crowd and he tells everyone to STFU. And if I'm not sacrificing because the people that are there, they want to be there, but they're paying their hard-earned money to watch you play, to watch you win. They're rooting for you to score, which is why they're telling you to shoot. And you're skating off the ice telling them to shut the F up. Like come on.
Listen,
I understand that sometimes there's one or two punks or whatever, but dude, there's probably some kids there. There's probably some parents there. You know what I mean? Like, come on, Jake.
He's a moron. I got two takes on this. First off, there are the casual fans who go to the game because it's an experience. They want to take their kids or something like that. And when you yell shoot, it's because the game's boring. When this game started off boring.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry. So you want to see action. Excuse me. I apologize. So you want to see action. So, yeah, you yell shoot when you're not shooting. And this team has been known for not shooting when they shoot a lot. It's not like – a lot of times when people yell shoot is for what I just said. But when I yell shoot, it's because it's a 2-on-0 and they're passing too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a 2-on-1. And just shoot the damn puck. By the time they pass, one of the guys is behind the net, is reaching back. So I get it that they should be able to understand that if there's a guy right in front of them, they don't have a shooting lane. If the crowd's shouting shoot, it's because they're bored. They want to see a shot. This team has been extremely boring this year, not to mention completely horrible. So there's that. And then there's what you brought up. And it's basically you pay your hard-earned money to see the game. These guys are getting paid millions. And I've never understood this in any sport. You're getting paid millions and millions of dollars. And all we want is an effort. And like you said, there's kids in the stands. And you're because your frustration is mounting, you scream, shut the F up to your own fan base because you've been so good this year that you can stand above everybody else and tell us that'll drive me nuts until the day I die. Honestly, I just, where do you get off? You're making $8.25 million for the next 5-6 years. And you don't deserve it. You had one good year. After that, you've had some solid years, which are hidden by your points, which, yeah, you got 70-something points, but really you gave up about 35 of those. We all know it. You make mistakes constantly. Sure, he can show that little time where he just turns it on. It looks like Gretzky, but that's few and far between. So for him to get like this, especially after every loss, all 8 losses – Voracek, what happened, Jake? We got to give a 60-minute effort. We can't do that. Didn't even give a different excuse anytime. That's somebody who doesn't care. Just get the camera away from me, get the microphone. I don't care. I have my millions of dollars. And, I felt that from Ghost before because he did something similar. Ghost is a kid. Voracek's like the number 2 guy on this team, and he's like 29 years old. He needs to act like it. And it's just really sad to see that because I really used to love Voracek. And if he was traded tomorrow, I wouldn't even feel bad. If we traded Voracek for a 4th-round pick, I'd be like, look at all the cap space we just got.
He's wearing an A on his sweater, man. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
That's exactly it. Like, Drew would never do that, and he knows not to do that. Voracek, as far as I'm concerned, can go pound sand. He just got no right. Your team sucks balls. You have nowhere to stand. None.
Like Giroux,
and that's why he's blocked everybody on Twitter, and only his friends and family can talk to him because he's a douchebag. He's a little baby.
That's it. He's a baby.
That's the problem with this team. There's too many babies.
That's what I've been saying. I agree 100%. I mean, number one, there really are babies on this team, like actual babies, like 20, 21 years old kids. And then there's guys like Ghost and Voracek. I mean, and I don't think that they're alone. You know what? I tweeted something the other night that guys like Giroux, guys like Simmons, give me another guy, TK, even though TK is still a little bit on the younger side. Those 3 guys, and maybe there's more, but just to use those 3, they're outnumbered big time, I think, by, the young kids. And I think that there's guys pushing the other way. And when I say that, I mean that there's leaders that are trying to go one way, maybe trying to move forward. But when you have guys that kind of sulk and kind of imagine you're going up a hill and you're carrying dead weight, or there's guys that are trying to pull you backwards. I think that's what guys like Voracek are. And I think Ghost can go either way. He kind of, he'll go – if everyone's going right, he'll go right. If everyone's going left, he'll go left. He's a follower. But I think that Voracek is a leader, and I think that he's leading in the wrong way, if that makes sense. I think that he's kind of the anti-leader right now. He's negative. He sulks. He's cursing at the fans. He blames everybody but himself, it sounds like. All of a sudden, Jake is like Wayne Gretzky because he scores 80 points in a season. You know what I mean? Like, dude, get over yourself, dude. There's 100 other players just like you.
No, and it's true. I mean, it just kills me for what he's making, how he's deteriorated. It makes me really angry. And you're right, where like his antics, like I can see other young players picking up on that, being just bitter towards the media, towards the fans, especially.
Yeah,
fans are the reason you got a job.
You know who I see it from already, and pay attention when he does his interviews now. I see it from Nolan Patrick already, dude. He's 20 years old. 6 points in 35 games or whatever it is, and he's talking to everybody like he's been here for 5 years. Yeah,
it's a shame because he's got that look, like that face, that
like he's tired already. Like, you've been here for a year and a half, dude. 2 years.
Yeah, he's got that pretty boy. I should have been the first overall pick of the draft. I'm going to make millions regardless of what I do look.
Yeah.
The good thing is guys like that usually don't play defense very well. He at least does that. But, yeah, it sucks. Like, you need to be more like Giroux. Giroux gets mad and he starts laying hits and he yells at, like, people to do their shit right, do their job.
He's a leader.
Yeah, he's a real leader, and he leads more so by example. But yeah, where these other guys, the Ghosts and the Voraceks and the whiners, like, I don't want no whiners. Don't whine. That's crybaby. Woe is me. That you'll never be able to have that mentality to last in the NHL. That's why a lot of people say, I don't think you need to ease anybody into the NHL. Either you can play or you can't. If your mind can't handle that capacity of being here at this time, then you're not going to make it. I don't think that's true with goalies, though. But with everybody else, for the most part, it is. Only if somebody's not ready, you shouldn't have them play. But if you're worried about, them coming up for a little bit and how they're gonna handle the media and all that, then like they shouldn't be in this profession. And if he's already like that, sometimes they just have that demeanor. We used to give certain players in Philly in general a hard time for they don't care. I'm trying to think of somebody who do we always used to say they just don't care, but it really was just like it was just their attitude, their demeanor. There was definitely some like Chase Utley. Like Chase Utley, like he was one of our favorite players of all time, but he really didn't show a whole lot of emotion,
Yeah.
And I think at first, I think there's something thinking of somebody else too, but that can rub people the wrong way. So I'm not ready to like cast him out, but knowing how poorly Nolan Patrick's playing, he should really talk to somebody about how his interviews are going and maybe try to show that he cares a bit. On the other hand, most hockey players aren't the most entertaining of folk, if you've seen by some of their commercials. So I don't want to kill him too much, but I understand what you're saying. That could definitely be rubbing off. And after seeing what Voracek did, sad.
So I got a couple questions for you. I got one on Voracek for you and one on Patrick. The first one we'll do for Patrick, and these were Twitter polls. How do you feel about Patrick getting sent to the minors for a couple games?
I thought I saw somebody tweeting that stuff. I mean, at this point, how bad the team has been, anything is possible. And I mean, as long as he couldn't get waiver claimed, I'm not sure what our deal is with that. Absolutely, he deserves it. He's not if that would show the rest of the team and even the guys on the Phantoms, like, you don't perform, nobody's untouchable. And at the same time, you don't have to trade somebody just for the sake of trading them to get your point across, you know? So, yeah, I would send anybody to the minors. Anybody but Giroux. Carter Hart might go, but not because he's bad.
Well, yeah, they still got Elliott and the other Stoller coming back.
And Neuwirth gets hurt in the locker room now. He, finishes a game and then it comes out a day later he's hurt again. But, I would never be against that. Like, it should be like that even when they're decent. If you're playing that poorly and it's not going to – and we don't want to trade you because, there's potential there. You should be able to be – it's better than sitting in the press box because when it's time for you to play again, you're not you're fresh. Not fresh. You're not out of, playing shape or – what I'm trying to say. You're not –
I got it.
Yeah, so, especially with the younger guys, they need to keep playing. You need to know what you see from them. The older guys, they can go in the press box. McDonald should have a cot in there.
Was he out tonight? I noticed Falim was playing. Was McDonald out?
I think McDonald's hurt right now. I don't know for sure if it's something small. I don't think it's anything long term. But yeah, I didn't notice him. I mean, no, I didn't see any Flyers laying on the ice, so I guess McDonald was out of the lineup. So yeah, I mean, I want to overshadow like a good night. It was a good win, but the season, as far as we're concerned, is lost. So whatever. Great, they look good.
Yeah,
I'm looking at individuals now. I think it's time to bring the kids up. I think it's time. The trade deadline can't come fast enough because you really want to see them move guys like Gudas and Wheel and Simmons and to replace those guys with young guys to see what you have for next year. Get their feet wet. Well, we should already be looking towards next year, clearing some cap, and just see what happens. At this point, take the pressure off. Definitely explore a possible trade for Voracek. I'm done. I'm totally done with him. But so go back to your poll. I'm sorry, I go on a tangent there. Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody, if it doesn't affect them getting picked up or traded or whatever, everybody should have that threat, and especially this team because of how poorly they played.
So I think it could be it should be viewed as a positive thing. Like, absolutely, it shouldn't be viewed as a negative thing because I feel like it'd be more for if he goes to the minors, it'd kind of be like, hey man, like you're in a losing locker room right now. Like things are going pretty south. We're on an 8-game losing streak, even though they won tonight. But hang out with the Phantoms for a little bit. They seem to be doing well. Spend some time in a winning locker room and bring that mentality back to the Flyers, and then what happens is Patrick can kind of work on changing the Flyers locker room, and sometimes when you're in the problem, it's hard to see that you're part of the problem. So when you're pulled out and now you're on the outside looking in, and he spends time in a winning culture, he's like, whoa, like we're like way far away from where we should be. You know what I mean? Maybe he finds his offense a little bit down there, and he comes back and he's brand new. He's fresh.
That's a really interesting perspective. I almost wish it be instead of like Nolan Patrick, although I could see him going down regardless, somebody else who has more leadership qualities, because they could like pick that up, and then when they come back to the NHL, hopefully be revitalized, and then like start to implement the difference between what you're seeing in a winning organization or a winning team with the Phantoms and start to weave that in to how the Flyers are. Like that's a real yeah, definitely didn't think of that one. Yeah, I could see. I don't know who that player would be though. Huh. I would say Voracek, but I'm done with him. So who's that? You're not going to send Simmons down. You're showcasing him. Patrick makes sense based on his youth. So who's like the youngest guy you could send down who could theoretically do that and has some like clout with the team that could come back and be like, this is what they're doing down there, and they win. We suck. Maybe we should. It's probably too little, too late at this point, to be quite honest. So,
Well,
but it's an interesting perspective.
That's why I was thinking Patrick, because I could see like that sour puss on his face already. I'm like, dude, you haven't been here long enough to be walking around like that, dude. Like maybe he's Hextall preached all this. Let's do things the right way. Let's develop guys. And then I know Patrick was a second overall pick, but the kid didn't spend a second in the minors, and he comes right in with the big club, and he's given a role. Like really, I know he was hurt. I know he was hurt again this year, but he hasn't done anything for me that's been like, wow, like thank God we got him with the second overall. I know he's supposed to be because he was a second overall pick, but he hasn't done anything for me, to be honest with you. That's like, oh, thank God we got Nolan Patrick.
Oh, no. It's quite the opposite. It's almost like, it's definitely early. Some guys develop slower than others, but everybody's labeling him like bust potential. Like, oh boy, here we go. Look at what Elias Pettersson's doing. He was the sixth pick of that draft. I haven't heard a whole lot of Heishier, but the guy Dallas got number 3, the defenseman Heiskanen, he looks pretty good too. And, Patrick looks like complete crap. He's still injury prone. The whole thing was like, this is his first full off season, and he put on some muscle, and he's just not been an effective center at all. He's not been an effective NHL player. It's like I don't see any of that skill from juniors at all. I see nothing. Defensively, he's okay, and that's about it. He barely drives the play. The whole team misses the net. That's why the 2 goals were deflections. Yeah, also, I can almost say accidents. Like an actual shot and score where you pick a spot and hit it. I think only Giroux can do that right now.
Yeah,
and he had a nice opportunity today, but he shot it. Ready for this, Jimmy? High and wide, you know what I mean? And it rattled around boards. So I don't know. It's definitely too early, but it's still scary because you want to see this guy come out of the gate and just know you didn't get a bust. We all thought we got lucky when we jumped up. Now we're like,
damn,
this sucks. Then you add in Provorov's struggles. It's like, are we gonna? I don't want. Definitely not saying bust with him. We've seen him perform well at the NHL level, but it's just like, man, we need to get more out of our draftees. If this was Hextall's plan, well, he drafted the wrong guys. It's definitely too early to say that, but it's not early. It's not definitely too early to be scared, like because they're the worst team in the league.
Heiskanen's number 2 rated, young defenseman behind Dahlin.
That's insane. And and Dahlin's he's a generational talent supposedly, so he's pretty much outside of that. He's like the best young defenseman. Like, it just sucks. It's like, well, it's like always us. We got JVR. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Only Giroux was like our great pick. You know what I mean?
He was a later pick, wasn't he? He kind of busted his ass to get up here.
Well, later in the first round, but he was still a first-round pick. He was like 22 or something.
Yeah.
Hopefully Carter Hart, because that's the only other one. Yeah, Lindblom was a 5th-round pick, but it's nothing special. Can you think of anybody else we draft? Coots was an 8th overall pick of the draft, and he's regressed this year. So I can't think of anybody on the current team that was like drafted high, supposed to be good, and turned out to be good. Still too early on guys like Provorov, Konechny, but that's kind of what we're talking about here. Early signs are concerning. At least this season is concerning, especially for Nolan Patrick. They need to do something.
You know what's crazy, man? You look at the some of the ages of the guys on this team, and there's maybe a handful that are over 25, 26. Everybody else is like 22 and under, which is pretty insane. We had some pretty high expectations, but there's a lot of guys that needed to take that next step this year? And what are the chances that was going to happen? Maybe we should have been looking at, maybe our expectations were too high.
It wasn't just us though. Like Hockey News, like big Canadian like hockey outlets, like they had a couple of players, but like only 3 or 4 picked to like break out the season, and one of the players they picked was Nolan Patrick. So like that really sucks. TK, we were all hoping he would continue that like nifty Brad Marchand style of play and scoring. And it's not all on him, but it's not there either. JVR looks like a bust of a signing right now. I'm not ready to kill him. I understand that he had an injury to start the season and he needs an effective center, which he's not had. But speaking of effective centers, Coots is nowhere near the player he was last year. Drew,
I think you overachieved.
Our 2 best players on the team are our captain and Hockey Flyers Hall of Fame walk-in, Claude Giroux, and a rookie named Carter Hart. I wouldn't put anybody else above them based on this year's play. I would definitely wouldn't put Voracek. Simmons isn't scoring like he used to. The power play is a joke. Ghost is barely playing. He's not scoring at all. He's not hitting the net. Yeah, he'll pick up an assist now and then, but he used to be that guy who would make you break your ankles on your skates. He would make things happen. He was that exciting player. He's not exciting at all. He's a joke.
You made a good point earlier in the show when you said that Dallas, you noticed Dallas wasn't pressuring as much. And I think maybe most teams caught on to that if you pressure the Flyers, they panic a little bit. And if you give a guy like Ghost some room, he will make something happen. He's very gifted offensively, but if you pressure him and you don't give him that time and space, I think teams maybe caught on to that.
It is. You'll see when they like make mistakes, it's because somebody pressured. It's not always a bad pass. Usually those plays that lead right to goals is because they panic around the net. Provorov trying to get the puck out because the guy's coming at him, makes a bad pass, it gets blocked. Either it's stolen or it trickles somewhere else, or it kills any offense they had, and they got to regroup. Like Coots gave up a pretty bad goal. He tried doing a drop pass because the guy was pressuring him. He didn't put enough on it. Intercepted, down, shot, score. And it's like and if he didn't score, it would have been a penalty, possibly a penalty shot. And it's like, they don't know, they panic, they don't know what to do. And a lot of the things they do when they're on offense and they get in trouble, you ever see that pass where like usually it's Voracek will send it all from one boards to the other through all that traffic?
Yeah,
like that's what they were taught to do when they get into trouble, because it's like a weird pass. Teams picked up on it, and now that gets picked off, and it's a breakaway the other way. And in that one game I'm thinking of, we had the goalie pulled. He did that, and it led to like a breakaway empty netter. You know what I mean? That's Voracek scoring 70 points a year, but giving them back at the same time. Perfect example. So yeah, like you get pressured, they panic every time. It's like almost guaranteed. Only the players who have good hands and big bodies, like JVR and Simmons, can actually like stick handle a little bit away and hang on to it and shovel it around the boards. I see Roth do it too, Giroux. But like a lot of the defensemen, because they're young or inept, like McDonald, or you know what they'll do? They'll fire it. They'll fire it right into the defenseman's pads. And what happens? It deflects past them, and now it's a race.
Yep.
A race they always lose.
Yeah.
So I mean, all you got to do is step up and challenge them, and you've already halfway won the battle, and that sucks. That's terrible.
So I got one more question for you. I don't mean to change topic, or maybe I do mean to change topic, but Voracek, I mean, I think he scored in 2 straight games now. Is it 2? He scored the other night.
He didn't score tonight. It was disallowed.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was disallowed. Okay.
And that was goaltender interference. Thank God.
Yeah.
Because listen, I want it to be called right when it's like 1-1 and the Flyers score, and they shouldn't be overturned. So it's night like tonight, that needs to be overturned. That was the literal definition of goaltender interference. And they didn't argue it. And thank God. But they got it right. They did it right. I'm surprised that referee didn't call it right from the get-go. He was standing right there.
Yeah, that was pretty terrible that they had to review that. But
but go ahead.
Would you see? I mean, let's just say that Voracek keeps up his usual BS. Should they bench him for a game or two? Should they put him up in the box? Just to send a message that, hey, we know you're here for 7 years. We're paying you. What's he making? 8.2, something like that.
8.25, yeah.
And you're not the boss on this team. Like, we're still in charge. You're a player for the club. Get your shit together. Like, you're making all kinds of money. You're a leader on this team. Friggin' start acting like one. And that will trickle down to the rest. Because I kind of get the feeling, like, even when Hackstall was around, that the players kind of ran the show a little bit. And like like when you had a substitute teacher back in high school or whatever, like like you knew that you weren't going to do anything that day. Like, he would come in, introduce himself, put on a movie, and then it was bullshit the rest of the day. That's how I felt like when Hack was here. Like, he would come in, all right, guys, this is what we're going to do. He leaves, all right, everybody go back to their throwing paper airplanes and shit. You know what I mean? I think someone needs to come in and say, hey, this is how we're going to do things now. If you're not going to do things how we want, the Flyer way, if you're going to embarrass us, if you're going to curse at fans, go sit up in the box for a game.
Well, that's kind of why I want a guy like Quenneville in here. Yeah. Quenneville has the stature. Like, if he was the substitute teacher, you're not throwing paper airplanes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You're like, this guy means business. If I even step out of line, I'm going to be in the principal's office. You know what I mean? And that's why I wanted him, because it's not just that he's a hard-nosed coach. He's a 3-time Stanley Cup winning hard-nosed coach, where Hackstall comes in straight out of friggin' college, never won any championship, and is benching Ghost and Sanheim. And, the team didn't like that. That's like widely known that the team was like, are you serious? Like, this is stupid. Yeah. Like, a kid makes a mistake. McDonald makes them every single day. You have him in all situations. Like, he contradicts himself. Hacksaw was a clown. So, like, yeah, if a clown's running the show, the inmates are going to run the asylum, basically,
Right, and I think that's what happened.
Well, yeah, exactly. They tuned him out. But he's been tuned out for years, and it took him forever to figure it out. But the guy comes in, and all this is exactly why we need Quenneville or of somebody of similar stature. We can't be taking any risks. I think it'd be a horrible move if they went, let's go pluck the next guy out of college, like, because the Rangers hired a guy. I think there's another team, and they also shouldn't go back to the well of name coaches who were never successful. I don't want Alain Vigneault. He was somewhat successful. He never won the cup, though. He's, I think he's past his time a little bit. I want them to go get Hitchcock, or, he's past his time as well. Or like somebody who's, or Dan Beismel. He won a cup with a stacked team that had Crosby way in his prime. That was not even, he took over mid-season, and they just fired the coach to get a rise out of the team. After that, the team went downhill. Like, he never won anything. Buffalo hired him; they were terrible. So yeah. We can't have that. I need like a actual coach who's won from there in training camp and won 3 cups in like 6-7 years. Like, it's a dynasty kind of coach. Like, I need that. I need that kind of structure. Like, Babcock would make sense too. I know he's on a team, but I'm just saying that kind of coach is what we need. So, because then these players, they'll be held accountable. And I think we've always said that this team is never held accountable. Now, Chuck Fletcher has to be on the same page here. He's got to start moving people out, because he was brought in because of Hextall's inaction. Chuck Fletcher hasn't done anything. Now, I understand that to a degree. I think it's always been said, when you're a GM and you're in trouble, the other GMs in the league, they're not going to throw you a lifeline. If they do, it's going to be a big, heavy anvil. You're going to take it, sink right to the bottom. Like, they're looking to peck at your corpse. You know what I mean? Right. They want you to make a mistake, a desperation move, and they want to be that GM who said, yeah, I got him first. So they're all waiting for him to make his first move, whether it's a smart one or not. So I think he's getting lowballed. But that being said, too bad. You got to do something. And it starts with the trade deadline.
Yeah, it's going to come quick.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it starts with that, and then I think they need somebody who you can't tune him out, because he's got too much respect and success. And that the guy like that doesn't make any sense with a guy like Hackstall.
Yeah, so I agree that that's what happened, and then I just wonder though if like a guy like Paul Holmgren or now Chuck Fletcher, I wonder if he realizes that because I remember seeing something that he likes this locker room or he hasn't seen a locker room that was so close knit before, and I'm like, that's not good with this team because they're too comfortable. Of course, they're going to be close. Like, how can you be so close and I'm not sure what he means by that. Like maybe they're trying to help each other through, losing 8 in a row. I don't know. But a close locker room while you're losing 8 straight games is you got to break that up, dude. Break that shit up because that's the issue is the close-knit locker room. Shake some things up. Have people afraid. Sometimes people play better when they're scared. You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting you said it because when they fired Hextall and then Hackstall, that's when they started to go on a little bit of a win streak. Nothing with Hextall. They pretended like they were scared. Oh, nobody's untouchable. But then they still lost. It wasn't until Hackstall was gone and they're guys they see every day that they started to do something. And then they went right back to how they were. There's a serious problem with the actual core of this team. I keep coming back to one name, and I hope it's not because I'm just mad at what he did, but Voracek needs to get moved. I'm sorry. That money could be so much well spent elsewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I think that he's still pretty highly regarded around the league. I think. I mean, we see him every night, so we see he's bad. He's a good player, but he makes too much money to be doing what he's doing and to be acting how he's acting.
He's like a $6 million player right now, and he was maybe not so much last year, but if this continues, he's over the amount of years he has left, he's really overpaid, and he embodies, as we were just talking to earlier, that entitlement, that telling the fans to go fuck themselves. You know what I mean? Like that, he just represents that. Giroux never represented that for me. I mean, I wouldn't get rid of him just to get rid of him. I want to get something. Definitely is the same with guys like Ghost, who I think is very similar, and Patrick. But I get what you're saying, and I think some guys like that need to be moved. It's not just Simmons because his contract's up. It's not just letting Laterre go or letting Raffle go. Like somebody who's supposed to be part of the future needs to go because they're not part of the future. They're not the player we thought they were. This season's proved it. Even with winning teams, in winning seasons, there's gonna be animosity. And how do you handle it? That's how you handle it. That's terrible. I don't like that on my team.
What kind of message is that sent to the younger players? Like,
that's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's like you're the guy, you wear the A, you talk to the media, and you're falling to pieces on live TV to our own fans. Yeah. What a joke.
Yeah.
And it's just like you have no room. It's like if that was Giroux, I'd be upset. But I couldn't say much because he's still Giroux. He's great. Voracek's been terrible.
If I'm the coach and one of my players comes off like that, he's sitting on the bench the rest of the game. You gotta send a message because if he thinks he's the alpha dog and this is my team as the coach, dude, sit your ass on the bench. I'm the alpha. You know what I mean?
I mean, again, that comes back to Quenneville. I'm sure he would do that in a heartbeat.
Like those are they're your fans. This is our home rink. You're not going to tell them to shut the F up. Block it out like a man and play the effing game. Sit your ass on the bench. That's the example you got to set. Because if you allow someone to come off the ice like that and oh, yeah, he's distracted. He had every right to tell him to shut the F up. Dude, block that shit out and go play.
That's just comes back to it's culture. And I like how they had a meeting a few games ago, team only meeting, and they still lost the next 3 or 4 games. It's like that again tells me it's the core, because it's not just Drew speaking at this meeting. It's Drew, and I'm sure his assistant captains are behind him, and they're clowns. One of them's McDonald, which nobody will ever understand.
I wonder if they even let McDonald talk during those things.
How do you not snicker if he's talking? Like how Ottawa treated their penalty kill coaches in the Uber video.
Yeah.
That's how I would feel about McDonald. Yeah, guys, we really need to play hard. Well, this guy can't even skate. Yeah, how is he going to tell me how to play? He doesn't even know how to skate. You know what I mean? He played for the Islanders before this. It's not like he came from some winning culture. You know what I mean? Like I'll never understand that as long as I live. Oh, we really like him for his leadership, and like, what this ship has just gone crashing into the earth. What leadership? What do you like about it? I don't get it. It makes no sense. He doesn't lead by example. Anything he does say contradicts how he actually plays, and the team results suck. So what is there to like about this guy? I'll never understand that.
I don't understand why they had to sign. How long they sign him? 5, 6 years?
6 years at $5 million after they traded a second and a third for him because he was their big deadline acquisition. Yeah, that was the end of Holmgren.
Yeah.
Sad. It's oh my God, the worst. When you add all that up, he's the worst defenseman the franchise has ever had. I'm not saying he's skill wise the worst, but when you take in what we gave up for him, the contract, the length, he's the worst. And this has been the worst stretch of hockey I've ever seen in my life. Team's only been around since '67. They were pretty damn good during the '70s and '80s and the latter part of the '90s. So, yeah, this is probably the worst stretch of hockey this city has seen in a very long time.
Who would you rather have, Andy McDonald or Steve Eminger?
Steve Eminger was only here for like 30 games. You know? He was on
a first and a third for him.
Now, the price to get him was tough, but you got to understand, and we missed out on John Carlson because of that.
Yeah.
But there's potential. At least we took a shot. You know what I mean? And then it didn't work out, and he was gone.
Yeah.
We paid less of a price for McDonald, but he's still here 5 years later. You know what I mean?
He'll be here for one more.
That's all I'm saying. It's like, yes, Eminger sucked and was most likely. I don't know which player is worse. McDonald shouldn't be here either, but he is. You know, he was a problem, so they got rid of the problem. McDonald's been a problem for years. They're not getting rid of him. That's the real issue.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he sucks up a chunk of the cap that Eminger never did.
Quick question, since we talked about cap, is he still up with the Flyers?
No, I haven't seen him. I think he's just been a healthy scratch all this time.
Healthy scratch, yeah.
I think they're just waiting for the season to end. His contract will be up, and we'll just let him go. You know what I mean? Be like, yeah, it's not our problem kind of thing. Sweep it under the rug, whatever. You know?
Yep.
That's what I think.
Trade offer.
Yeah, so luckily that's $4.5 million. Be great if they got rid of McDonald. That'd be a total of, and whoever else they cut, it'd be like $10 million in cap space.
Doesn't Raffle make a couple bucks?
He makes 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So
what about Weiss? Weiss is here for another year?
He's got another year at 2 something.
Yeah.
Like 2.6, 2.8.
Hey, how about we haven't talked about this. Did you hear that uncut thing the other night where Jonesy and Jackson's mic wasn't cut off yet?
Yeah, I did.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think it sucks that it was heard like that. I mean, the fact that people do that stuff is like record it and then post it. It's really sad. It's shady because everybody talks shop. Everybody talks about everybody. Everybody talks about their own friends. Like everybody talks about everything. It is what it is. To me, it shows that they're fans and don't just show up, do the broadcast, and then go home and pretend like the Flyers don't exist. Like they actually care about the team.
Yeah.
And on top of that, everything that was said, did they say
correct?
You disagree with anything they said? Because I don't.
No. No, you know what it confirmed?
I heard him single out Weiss. I'm like, well, yeah, Weiss sucks, but he's not the problem. But
no, it confirmed for me that we know what we're watching. You know, we're not stupid fans. Like we know that Voracek disappears for some games. I mean, who cares about Weiss? Like we know Weiss stinks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
but we know what we're watching. We're not stupid fans.
It just kills me. The team has literally one of, if not the worst penalty kill, and one of, if not the worst power play. And then we boo and scream shoot, and the team is shocked that we're upset. That. I don't think at any time in the history of the team, except for maybe when they were first born in '67, and there was only like 10 teams in the league, were they ever that bad on special teams? Like this, there's 31 teams in the league. You got Ghost and Drew on your power play, and you can't produce. And the fans are upset, and you wonder why. This team is an absolute joke. I say this after a win.
I mean, some guys got to look in the mirror, and Voracek's definitely one of them.
Yeah, well, they're very quick. This team, and it stemmed from the other head coach. They're very quick to blame everything else.
Sure.
They'll give you the bullshit. Oh, we need to play better. We need to play a full 60. That's just lip service. That's that. You have that in your back pocket. You know what I mean? They use that excuse all day. They don't mean that. They just want you to get the camera out of the face because they lost. That ain't a real example.
Yep.
It's not a real reason. They don't care. What's real is screaming, shut the fuck up to your own fans. Because they're very quick to point the finger. Hacksaw twice said, well, the fans aren't very nice and it hurts our feelings. And are you kidding me? Like, you're professionals. Like, come on.
Hey, you know who everybody should be angry at? Whoever came up with the jersey design for the outdoor game. Did you see that ugly thing?
It's I think it sums up the season, to be honest with you. And it sums up the shellacking they're probably going to take in the outdoor game. They're already, 0-2, 0-3 in outdoor games?
Yeah.
So now they're going to come here to Philly, play our worst rivals, and they'll probably lose like 6-0.
Dude, it describes the team. It's a boring jersey. It's a bland jersey. It's two colors. There's no creativity. It is what it is.
If they were winning and were boring, that'd be one thing, but they're boring as hell, and they suck.
Yep.
A team that's got it reminds me of that playoff series against Washington where the fans threw the Ed Schneider bracelets. It's like I had heard this whole heartwarming story about how Ed Schneider was really close with the players, and they were talking, and he's in his hospital bed, and they're telling him that he loves them, and he's saying they love him, and he passed away, and they proceed to play the Capitals, and they lose in 5 games. And in 2 of those games, both at home, they get completely blown out. It's like you guys have, and you're mad at the fans for doing that. Like, don't talk. Yeah. Just take your stupid 2-minute penalty. It's not like you were going to come back and win, and just finish out the game. You're an embarrassment. And this team just doesn't understand, like, the way they're playing and the lack of effort they're giving is an embarrassment. And if Ed Schneider were alive today, he'd have you all fired. Like, this would not fly. And you're lucky that the cap is what it is and contracts are how they are, and Ed Schneider's not here anymore. So you can fall into this days of I'm just here to collect a paycheck style of play. And it's not everybody, but it's most of them. And that's what drives me most insane is the lack of care and effort. And yeah, Voracek and Patrick and Ghost, they just sum that shit up for me. And I don't like crybabies. Mason was a crybaby. I liked Mason up until he became a crybaby, and now he's gone. Voracek can follow him for as all as I care.
Mason had that crybaby face. Like, you always felt like he was just going to start to cry during an interview or something. His cheeks would get all rosy red, and you just waited for the tears. But
yeah, well, what kills me is like when he had a nobody behind him, and like Rob Zepp was his backup. Yeah. Mason was great. But the second any kind of talented goaltender came in, he just got all bent out of shape and affected his play. Like, that's ridiculous, man. You're a professional. Like, give me a break. Like, he's sad. It's really sad how his career fell off because he gave us one of the best goaltending season performances back in like 2014 or whenever 13, whatever the hell it was. But yeah, now I see that from Simmons and I'm sorry, Voracek, and the more players they trade from this team to start over and get a new corn here, and the faster the better. That's honestly how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting. So, I mean, tonight marks win number one of a possible winning streak. So we'll see.
First win of 2019.
Yeah. What are we, 10 days in? Holy crap, man.
10 days in, and they played at like 7 games.
Jesus, that's terrible. You know what? They've scored 3 goals or more. I'm sorry, they scored over 3 goals only once under Scott Gordon. That was a 6-5 loss to the Lightning. They're having trouble scoring goals under Scott Gordon. So I'm not
the power play is completely useless. You know, during their 08 run, their power play was like 3 for 29. Like it was like 13% efficiency. Penalty kill was just as bad. Like
they didn't get a penalty kill goal tonight. I forgot.
Well, here's a question: What's Knobloch still doing here? I thought he was supposed to improve an already good power play.
Is he new this year? Like, where did he come from?
I think it was either juniors or the AHL, and he was viewed as like a head coach. This guy's going to be a head coach someday. Takes over our power play, and it like Lappy completely deteriorates, and he's not shown the door. I don't get it. Why is he and Lappy still here?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that question.
I don't know. Maybe he's not meant for the power play, and they're just looking for a spot for him. If that's the case, he should have went down and been the head coach of the Phantoms. But now that guy's doing pretty well, so you don't want to do that. So now they're just on limbo. And because Lappy blocked a shot with his face 27 years ago, he'll have a job until he dies, I guess. I don't know. I don't.
He's got a nice haircut.
Yeah, but have you seen his nose? I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that.
You mean the S?
I'm just mad. Anyway, they won tonight. We should all bow down and realize how great of a team we have.
Hey, we can be happy for at least a night. You know, we can go to bed knowing they got at least a win.
Well, I started the podcast in a pretty positive mood, and then we brought up Voracek, and it all went
It's
down.
pretty easy to go south, yeah.
So, Jimmy, you got any trades you've been thinking of, pondering? Well, what could possibly happen?
I keep seeing a lot swirling around Wayne Simmons. Apparently, you were right. The GMs around the league and other team, what do you call it? Team fan bases, or they view Simmons, I guess, like a legit trade deadline guy. Like it sounds like the Flyers are going to get a decent package for him, which you were saying all along. People are saying pick, and prospect. You know, first round pick, prospect, and I'm like, holy shit, for Wayne Simmons. But I think when he is actually moved, if he's moved to a contender, he's the kind of guy where he'll be rejuvenated. You know, I could see him dropping gloves every other game, scoring power play goals. And if he goes to a contender, he won't have to play a large offensive 5-on-5 role or a defensive. You know, you can kind of hide him on a contender. You know what I mean? Whereas on a team like the Flyers right now, you can't really hide Wayne Simmons.
No, I mean, it comes down to he'll be in a winning locker room with a positive attitude, and he'll probably be utilized properly. Mm-hmm. And every player, when they get traded, especially to a contender, they're going to be back in the playoffs and on a team that probably has a chance to win it all, which he's never been on. Maybe in 2012 is the closest they've ever come to that. You know, that'll revitalize him. And when a revitalized Simmons, what he brings to the table, that's what other GMs are looking for. And they know what can happen when players get moved. And sometimes players need to get moved. So they're going to probably start, I don't know, say the trade deadline is the 28th of February. Probably around the 19th or 20th, you're going to start getting offers. And what Chuck Fletcher has to do is not jump on the first offer. He's got to make them bid against each other and try to get the best possible package. And it could be a win-win for both sides, especially depending on what team gets them. Like I've seen it floated out there, like, oh, Simmons for Colorado's first, or not Colorado, from Colorado, Ottawa's first pick. It's like there ain't no way you're getting that pick. But Colorado's first pick, which will probably be in the high 20s, That's not crazy. They could use a player like that. If I were them, I would look for another goaltender, but hey, they're few and far between. A team like Boston and Toronto, we've talked about. The Oilers, for some strange reason. There's no shortage of teams who could use Wayne Simmons. And the closer we get to the deadline, the higher the price is going to get. And the more teams we got bidding for him, the better. And there's not a whole lot of players out there like Simmons. So anything can happen. I would talk to anybody. And, yeah, there's too many hockey guys out there and fan bases. Like you said with Voracek, we see these guys every day, so we see a lot of the negative. A lot of other fan bases don't. And they just see the positives. They see the highlights. And they see what their team is missing. And I think that's where we can strike gold if it's done correctly. And this is Chuck Fletcher's time to shine because as of right now, all he's done is add waiver wire pickups and call up a goaltending, prospect he didn't draft. So let's see what he's made of. And yeah, it's good to hear that, teams are openly discussing that they're interested. So, like I said, trade deadline can't come soon enough. So.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll probably have a couple more shows leading up to that. So we said they got New Jersey and they got Minnesota coming up. Can they go on a 3-game winning streak they would tie it. They've only been on a 3-game winning streak once this year. Will they tie it?
No, I think the Wild, even with their injuries, is going to beat them. It might be a close game. They might beat the Devils. But the Devils always play the Flyers tough. We did get them. I think we're 1-1 against them this year. I think they could get by the Devils. That could give them momentum going into the Minnesota game. But Minnesota's just on another level, even with their injuries.
They're a physical team, man. They're a tough team,
and they got a good goaltender. So, here's the thing: is Minnesota starting their starting goaltender? Because a lot of teams tend to just start their backups against the Flyers because of how bad we are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if the backup's in, maybe we got a shot. If Dubnik's in, I really don't think we'll win, And who's after the Wild? Is it, going to get easier or tougher from there?
I mean, we're the worst team in the league. Every game
Yeah, good point. And the other bad team we played, we lost to, the Blues. In a battle of the worst teams for Jack Hughes, we lost.
A team that was fighting each other in their practices, we lost to.
Yeah, exactly. So they play New Jersey to Minnesota. So then they got Boston on Wednesday. That's a loss.
They're gonna get rocked.
That following Saturday, they'll play Montreal. Then they have a week off. Oh, the All-Star break.
They need that bad.
Yeah, but then they come back and play Winnipeg. That's a back-to-back with the Rangers. Boston again. Edmonton, they can see Wayne Simmons up close. Vancouver. Oh, geez. They
might never win a game again.
Well, then they play the Kings. That's a winnable game. This is one of the first times I look at the schedule and I'm like, no, that team's better. That team's better. And it's like, man, I only named in a 2 months worth of games, I picked 2 or 3 wins. Now, obviously, they'll probably win more than that, but not much.
They should be winning some games, but I guess they just don't mesh. So, but we're coming up on an hour. You want to wrap this one up?
Yeah, we probably should. Flyers did win tonight if you didn't catch that.
Yeah, they did.
Can't tell by my tone, but they did.
Yeah, Flyers do finally win their first win of the year. We're going to sign off. You're listening to FHW Radio. Just in case you missed in the beginning, you can find us on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, and the app that we're using now, which is Anchor. You can catch us on YouTube if you feel like watching us. Thanks for listening, guys. You can catch us on Twitter. I'm Jim_FHW, also known as Angry Jim. Jack, you are?
I'm at Flyers Yak. I need more Twitter followers. I do say some funny shit, especially to certain players or certain people's Twitters. Usually give the beat writers a hard time. They say some weird stuff sometimes. Did you see Sam Carducci? Should the Flyers trade Wayne Simmons or should they hang on to him to lure Joel Quenneville into coming to Philly? That made no sense to me.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either.
Why? No. So, yeah, anyway, that's kind of the stuff I troll on the internet, but I do make some good points. So, come on, I need some followers. Let's go. Follow me, I'll follow you. Be like my friend Jimmy over here. I'm just starting out. Help me out.
Give Jack some follows, guys. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. FHW Radio signing off. We'll catch you guys next week.